Hello and welcome, and if you're looking for excitement, in the words of Samuel L. Jackson in the popular motion picture Jurassic Park, hold on to your butts. Because in this video I'm going to be talking about the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. 560-page publication, damn near 100 years old, and it's all about how you have been doing everything wrong. In all seriousness, this is one of the best-selling books known to mankind, and I'm going to be doing a book report on it right here in this video. Just so you know, this video is part of a series that I'm putting together. I think I'll call it Books, Check 'Em Out. If you're from the 80s like me, you know what that means, but it's on the publications and the literature of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'll be doing a video on each of them. But first, if you're new here, my name is James. I'm a grateful recovering addict and alcoholic. I drank and used drugs recklessly for 20 years and I've been recovering for 3.5. I post videos here weekly. Feel free to subscribe, like and share to get this message out there, and scroll all the way down if you're on your phone. Comment, share with us your experience, strength, and hope. This book, Alcoholics Anonymous, lovingly called the Big Book of AA by members of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you don't know, the only requirement to be a member of AA is the desire to stop drinking. And if you're watching this video, if you've looked it up, congratulations, because you may have the gift of desperation, the GOD, one of the greatest gifts that I've ever received. It brings us to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. It brings us to dusting off 100-year-old books, and it brings us to the truth. First and foremost, what is the Big Book? It says in the foreword of the book, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. This book, to me, I've read a couple times, but I don't read it often enough. I have heard multiple times in the rooms of AA from people of 20 plus years of sobriety that they read the book daily, if not almost daily, on a regular basis. There's people that read pages 86 to 88 every day, and there's people that meditate on different parts of the book. I've heard time and time again that there are 3 things you need to do to keep sober. Don't pick up, go to meetings, read the Big Book. Different variations of those 3, get a sponsor, don't pick up, keep coming back, stuff like that. But read the Big Book. I've been reading it lately, as I should. These things that we should do are the things that have kept me sober. So where did the Big Book come from? Well, 80 years ago, April 10th, 1939, Bill W., one of the 2 founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, to my understanding, the other was Dr. Bob, wrote this book. And if you're wondering who the hell is Bill, he tells you right in the very beginning of the book, in Bill's story. This is one place you'll find that you're in the right place when you read Bill's story. It begins with war fever ran high in New England. So this guy's writing, this is the 30s and 40s. He was a Wall Street cat, suffered from what you and I are suffering from currently as we speak. And that is one of the many stories. So the Big Book, the first 164 pages have not been changed since its origination in 1939. There's been 4 editions, and the only things that change in those editions are the stories in the back. He lived only to drink, listening to the wind, on the move, a vision of recovery. These are personal stories from various walks of life. You can find inspiration chilling in our pajamas at home, curled up by the fire, however you like to read. For those of us who don't like to read all the time, there is an overwhelming amount of media online, on CD, on digital file. Books, the Big Book can be purchased on audio recording as well. And like I said, there's many publications from Alcoholics Anonymous. I'll be covering those in other videos, but first let's let's take a look at the big book. In 1939, AA founders Bill W. and Dr. Bob wrote the basic text. It still serves as the basic text to Alcoholics Anonymous. It hasn't been changed since then, like I said, except for the stories. Richard Nixon actually received the 1 millionth copy. This book has been one of the worldwide bestsellers for almost a century now. It is everything that you need to know, and still people carry this around as it is the Bible of AA. The main meat of the book is how it works. This contains the 12 steps that they came up with, which have been a blueprint for how to get and remain sober for 80 years now. I actually found it was interesting, and it had a lot of wow factor. Why? Because it's about me, and we all love reading about ourselves. It related directly to me. It also outlines the solution, how to use the 12 steps, and often has chapters devoted to specific audiences. There's one called We Agnostics, there's one called To the Wives. Back then, most of the first members of AA were men, so there's a chapter devoted to wives, but in there, to this day, it still holds solutions for family life. And in the very beginning, one of my favorite parts, the doctor's opinion. This is a scientifical and medical approach. It's the opinion of a Dr. William D. Silkworth, and he started out with this brief intro. To whom it may concern, I have specialized in the treatment of alcoholism for many years. In late 1934, I attended a patient who, though he had been a competent businessman of good earning capacity, was an alcoholic of a type I have come to regard as hopeless. In the course of his third treatment, he acquired certain ideas concerning a possible means of recovery. As part of his rehabilitation, he commenced to present his conceptions to other alcoholics, impressing upon them that they must do likewise with still others. This has become the basis of a rapidly growing fellowship of these men and their families. This man and over 100 others appear to have recovered. This was the beginning. There was 100 members then. There's millions now. I personally know scores of cases who were of the type of whom other methods have failed completely. These facts appear to be of extreme medical importance because of the extraordinary possibilities of rapid growth inherent in this group. They may mark a new epoch in the annals of alcoholism. These men may well have a remedy for thousands of such situations. You may rely absolutely on anything they say about themselves. Very truly yours, William D. Silkworth, MD, and then goes on to explain it further. And that's one of my favorites. The rest of that's about 4 or 5 pages of what he has to say, including an explanation of the allergy that is experienced by the alcoholic, the phenomena of craving that happens when he puts alcohol in his or her body. Then comes Bill's story. Then comes There Is a Solution. Bill's story, There Is a Solution. After that's more about alcoholism. We Agnostics, how it works, Into Action, working with others, To Wives, the family afterward, To Employers, A Vision for You. That is all in the first 164 pages. Like I said, it hasn't changed for 80 years. And then every edition has personal stories that start thereafter. Various personal stories relating to various walks of life. So it's a short story book as well as a guide, manual, a text that sponsors and sponsees walk through. In the beginning of the book, it lists other books that I'm covering in this series. Living Sober, that's a booklet. As Bill Sees It, Pass It On, Daily Reflections. This is interesting. In the back, it explains what they mean by a spiritual experience. Also in the back, they address religious views on AA and how to get in touch with AA. So what I'd like to do now is read a couple of your comments from my previous videos and then find an answer in the book. There's many places where you can find answers, but I'll just find the first relevant thing I see and then and then read it aloud. This comment is from my video, Alcoholism, How I Stopped Drinking, my personal story. Alex, who I believe he's from the United Kingdom, he writes, "I'm still scared and alone. I had really bad DTs this morning and it scared me to the point I had to drink again. I'm only 23. It started about 4 with restlessness, then paranoid thoughts, and then panic, and then seeing things. And then I started sweating. My heart felt like it was about to explode, and then I started seeing black dots and strange patterns on the walls, and then started fucking freaking out. Big time. At this point I rang my ma'am, screaming. I rang my mom, ma'am I guess they call it over there, screaming at her with panic because she's in the countryside and I'm in Newcastle. She sounded scared, but I was delusional at this point and just wanted to stop, so I scraped all the change I could to get a cheap bottle of cider just to stop it happening. It took an hour before it stopped, and I'm still sick. I'm going to the hospital later today. I'm just so scared." This immediately reminded me about the doctor's opinion in the very beginning, because I get a lot of truth and hope from science and facts and there's a lot of mystery shrouded in addiction. So what Alex is saying here reminded me of the doctor's opinion. The doctor's opinion is in Roman numerals, and I went to XXXI. On this page it says, "About 1 year prior to this experience, a man was brought in to be treated for chronic alcoholism. He had but partially recovered from a gastric hemorrhage and seemed to be a case of pathological mental deterioration. He had lost everything worthwhile in life and was only living, one might say, to drink. He frankly admitted and believed that for him there was no hope. Following the elimination of alcohol, there was found to be no permanent brain injury. He accepted the plan outlined in this book. 1 year later, he called to see me, and I experienced a very strange sensation. I knew the man by name and partly recognized his features, but there all resemblance ended. From a trembling, despairing, nervous wreck had emerged a man brimming over with self-reliance and contentment. I talked to him for some time, but was not able to bring myself to feel that I had known him before. To me, he was a stranger, and so he left me. A long time has passed with no return to alcohol." The reason this relates to me and my desperation is because he explains pretty exactly how I was feeling and exactly how Alex seems to be feeling here. Scared, alone, desperate, calling for help, not knowing where to go. In the doctor's opinion, and many other places in this book, it offers other perspectives and the fact that we are not alone. Then I found a relevant story that Alex could use on page 246. It's called The Man Who Mastered Fear. It's about, he spent 18 years running away and he found he didn't have to run. He started AA in Detroit. Alex, in this comment, you seem really scared, just like I was, and just like this man who masters fear in this story. So you can find the facts in the doctor's opinions, and then you can find a story to relate to after the first 164 pages of the book. And Alex, if you're watching, feel free to comment. Let us all know how you're feeling, man. I wish you the best. I know it's hard. I'm hoping you're well. This next comment, "All your aces belong to me," I guess is the end of that. This one was on a video I did fairly recently about fears, facing fears in sobriety. I had a video on there of me skydiving to face my fear of heights, demonstrating that facing our fears allow us to get past them and go on with our lives. All Your Ace writes, "Skydiving, a tandem jump, that is easy. Done so myself in Norway. Funny enough, I'm not into bungee jumping. I was nervous but not afraid. I'm a bit of a thrill seeker sometimes. I think it's one of the causes I used to use. It's normal life that scares the bejesus out of me, or being a good father. I'd rather jump out of an airplane." Yeah, there are a lot of my fears that jumping out of the airplane was easy. My fears that still remain are those of like normal life, socializing, and how to deal without mind-altering substances. To All Your Aces comment I found on page 127 and 128 relating to the home, the family, and a father. On 128 alone, father and dad, the words father and dad have been mentioned 8 times. And I'll just read a little bit. Assuming, on the other hand, that Father has at the outset a stirring spiritual experience. Overnight, as it were, he is a different man. He becomes a religious enthusiast. He is unable to focus on anything else. As soon as his sobriety begins to be taken as a matter of course, the family may look at their strange new dad with apprehension, then with irritation. This is explaining a man who becomes a religious enthusiast. I don't know if all your aces, but my point is, in these pages, there is stuff that addresses every situation of life that we as alcoholics and addicts have been baffled with before. One of the promises of AA, if you've heard them before, states that you will know how to handle situations that used to baffle you, and that's one of the promises. And in this book, it explains certain situations we don't know how to handle. This guy, all your aces, being a father, a family man, normal life scares the bejesus out of him, and as it does me, and probably many of you. My point is, in these pages, there's answers to that as well. One more comment. Relapsed about 6 days ago, going through alcohol withdrawal right now, home alone. Had 120 days under my belt. I'm hoping to get through this. I wrote down page 398. Looks like a story called A Drunk Like You. The more he listened at meetings, the more he came to know about his own drinking history. I think I picked this story to relate to Matt because it touches on, one day she asked if I could limit myself to 5 drinks in a day. I said sure. I was surprised when I found that I couldn't. That should have been my first clue that she might be right, but it didn't occur to me. Much to my surprise, the weekend went well, no problems. In this particular story, the writer mentions how he would successfully go through a stint of sobriety and then think himself successful. And this has been something I've experienced. Go 10 months without drinking, go 6 months, go 2 weeks without drinking, successfully saying no to alcohol and thinking that I could handle a drink, and just crashing and burning. And Matt's comment, Matt, you said you went 120 days. I've done that too. And there's stories in the book and in AA meetings of people that thought terms of sobriety meant that they could drink again, and it doesn't. The only way is abstinence. Unfortunately for us, the addicts, the only way is abstinence. And in the pages of the book, we find we can relate. This is an amazing, amazing book. It's one of my favorite all-time reads, believe it or not. So I put a link down in the description down below. If you're on your phone, you hit the drop-down arrow, the description will drop down. I put links to the AA Big Book and the NA. NA has a book as well. I'm not sure if they call it a big book, but they're very similar, and they both offer experience, strength, and hope, and it is essential. But if you want one sent directly to you, I put the link down there. I made a multi-video series on the books of AA, the publications, and I will include them in a playlist. Check out the playlists on my channel. I'm gonna call it Books, Check Them Out. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will answer any questions and any concerns. That brings me to the question of the day. Do you incorporate reading into your sobriety and recovery, your free time? Do you find that reading these books and literature help you stay on the path to a sobriety-focused perspective in mind? Because I do. Question of the day is, do you? Well, that's about that for the Big Book of AA. Don't forget, it's down there in the description. There's a link to buy your big book, and click subscribe, like, and share to get this message out there. And until next time, keep it clean, keep it real, and keep doing the damn thing. Peace. I'll just go in one other